Three, two, one. Jay Shrek, Finney Strong Podcast, a spiritual solution to a world in crisis. And we're going to bring in Mr. C.H. Smith, Charlie Smith, who's been world traveling here lately. Let's bring him in. Let's find out where he's been. Charlie, what's up today? How are you doing?
Jay Shrek, my friend, back for another exciting pod.
I'm ready to go, man. There's no lack of subject matter. That's not ever going to be an issue, is there?
I don't think so. It's almost too much.
You know, I will throw this out there. I told you this morning that with this drop of the JFK stuff, it's almost too much. It's almost like just overwhelming. I can't suck this in. You know that I love history and that I do a lot of history research, and man, it's like all of a sudden they gave me the treasure trove to go through, and it's incredible and it's sad at the same time, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, I heard MLK that they're pushing to get his stuff out too.
No, they've already pretty much put it up there that, it's not, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for the CIA. How's that? But
I don't know. Hey, so let's, when we go back to our last podcast, we talked about some really interesting things. We talked about bias, and I wanted to review that before we jump in to our conversation today. We talked about four specific bias, but we'll cover three right here. One was confirmation bias. This is what generally we would say, where we form an opinion based on information, and then other facts come forward, and because of how you form that opinion, you have a bias in it that you totally disregard any additional information. I think we could say that that's probably not right, especially if that new information may be contradicting your bias, but is factual information. The other one was more of the in-group bias, which is, you hear people talking about this a lot more, tribalism. So wherever the tribe goes, wherever the in-group goes, whether, let's say, you're hard left, hard right, whatever your bias comes from, you just flow with the group. So you're never ever going to go outside the group. And then the other bias we'll talk about is more of motivational reasoning, which is where you're coming out of emotion to form your bias. So a lot, like all this stuff's going on right now, and it just feels like there's a lack of it. It's full on bias, Jeff. What do you think about that? I mean, is anybody paying attention to the facts, or is it all bias right now and positioning media and all the things?
Well, you know me and my stories, right? So let's just say that I had some information about an archaeologist in Chaco Canyon that had spent his entire life trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together of how historically this worked and all the different stuff. And they dug and dug and dug. And he had 5 or 6 guys, and he became like the camp of this kind of thought. And, he got government money. Not this is a real story. Maybe it's fictitious. Maybe it's not.
Where's Chaco Canyon, by the way?
Chaco Canyon is in New Mexico. And if you have not been there, you should go there.
Okay.
It will change your life.
All right.
The largest structure that was built in the United States 800 years ago that didn't get surpassed till like 1892. It's incredible. But let's say, for example, though, that you spent all this time, you got government grants, and you got 5 or 6 people that are following you, liking the way you go, and you dig just a little deeper, Charlie, and you find out that everything that you've worked on for the last 25 years is completely false. What do? Do you just cover that bone up that you down there, or do you, well, and that's the problem with all this, right? And I guess my point is, it happens in a lot of different fields, but it's the same kind of thing. Why can't it be that whatever the truth is, let the truth set you free? But that's not the way it is, right? It's not the way it is. And it's not the way it is in a lot of different fields. I know that to be a fact in this situation, but it could be, I know another historian that we found out a bunch of information that wasn't true, and he wanted to deny it because he had made money on publications. He had written books about this. And now that we have the new information, what's he going to do? Well, what I say is, if you have an open mind, accept whatever the new data is, and you say, hey, I'm not going to live and die on that mountain. If the new data says he's good or bad, I'm going to follow that, right? That's my theory.
Well, that's pretty incredible if you would follow a rabbit hole like that. I mean, there's a lot going on with Elon Musk right now. I would say probably if you looked at trends online, social media, probably he's straight up there with Trump right now, probably even more so. What do you think about the bias going towards Elon Musk? Is all this stuff true that you're hearing from the right and left? How much bias do you think's there, and what type of bias do you think we're dealing with here?
Real quick though, I'll throw this out there, and here's my philosophy before I lay it out. How can a guy be the greatest and the worst, and he really hasn't? There's not been any real change that I can foresee. Now, if you had this stuff exposed that he did this, and I might change my opinion. How can this guy be the poster child for the left with his car that was green, and now how can he be the devil from the right? How can that even be? So my theory is it's not because he has changed, it's because big money behind it has pushed an agenda that allows this 13% that's far one side. I hate using use right or left, that are creating this illusion that it's everybody, and it's not. One thing that I'm very comfortable with today is that you hear all this left stuff and you hear these people burning. How could you be burning a guy's car deal? It's insane. It's absolutely insane. But it's a small, minute people that are being pushed there by this agenda. And it's not as big as it was, but it's still there. It still exists. These Soros type people are still out there that want to cause chaos. Chaos sells tickets to the big game.
Yeah. How much do you think is being generated by chaos for clickbait views, for the monetization of social media versus actual true communication and content? How do you break that down, since you're an expert in this arena?
I would say that there are a certain amount of people, you do get very knowledgeable about what stirs people up. If you do this long enough, you start to look at clickbait type things, whether they be titles and things like that. And you as a creator are tempted to use what's going on for your own good, even though you really don't have a part in it, right? But I would still estimate that 90% of what's going on is generated from people, big media places and big funding places they're driving an agenda for a way bigger purpose, and it's not a good one. I do think there's a few media content creators out there that are just trying to make money, but this is not. There's a whole agenda, and that JFK drop proves that this is big, and I don't want to keep dragging that back in, but it does prove that there's a whole world going on out there that is good versus evil, and the evil's not winning now, and that is very frustrating to some of the people that are out there that are pushing this agenda.
So you had talked about a person being lifted up as a hero, and then now as a villain. How do you think? What do you think motivates Elon Musk to do what he's doing? That's one question. And the next question is, why would he suffer through this type of persecution to do what he's doing? And then third, forget Doge, the acronym. It feels like that's become like a rallying cry for, or, you're going against it. Why, if you would have went back a year, 5 years, whatever, maybe you blank out all this stuff, would theft, waste of taxpayers' money, money being driven now that maybe not be connected to the national interests. Why do you think there's such a hard bias in that particular one? And why don't you take that one first before you talk about Elon Musk?
Well, the difficult thing to figure out is that I have to have a common sense thought on anything that I think. I study history. I look at facts. I don't look at, hey, I think Wyatt Earp was a great guy because he got played it in the movie Tombstone, and I love that character, and he portrayed him, whether it be Val Kilmer or whatever, and Doc Holliday, right? I don't have a love for a character. I look at the facts. I don't love Elon Musk, and I don't hate Elon Musk, but I look at the facts when I'm trying to make a statement of, or a thought process on how is this. I'm going to draw this guy in, whether it's premature or not, but I'm going to draw him in because I don't get it. We have a guy in Tucson, Arizona. His name is Mark Kelly. I don't like Mark Kelly. I don't dislike Mark Kelly, but he is throwing bias right now about the fact that they got the two people out of space and brought them back. And that is a problem as being an astronaut. He's got a problem with that. He's got a problem with them saving these two people that they wouldn't go get because it was political. I mean, where are the guys standing today? I don't care if you decide you don't like Elon Musk and you sell your Tesla. That's your business. You can do whatever you want to do. But why'd you buy it in the first place? And now why are you buying a gas guzzling truck now that you just the other day said it was horrible and that you people are ruining the planet, and now you're ruining the planet because you have a political bias against these people? I mean, there's a common sense thread thinking that I don't understand. How could you be against the government saving money when it's going to make sure that you probably pay less in taxes and you're secure on your Social Security? Why would you fight that? Because there's an agenda underneath that is manipulating you. They know that you're the guy that can be hypnotized, and they're hypnotizing you. How's that?
Well, I didn't know you were going to bring a Mark Kelly zinger in here. It doesn't make any sense. I think he got like a Chevy Tahoe, by the way. So it got a couple more miles, better gas mileage. Just
it's
we
like,
want to be about facts and stuff, not truck. But
how can you
it doesn't.
be,
So I have a Tesla, so I'm kind of biased here because I think it's the greatest car ever made because it's software defined and everything's driven off of software. Where how traditional cars are made from the mechanical into software. Tesla's made software out to mechanical. It's far superior technology. I know you're a Toyota guy, and it keeps on getting better every day, like your cell phone. That one, I don't even know how to comment because I totally think that's just fully political stuff, and I'm kind of tired of the politics.
How though can you base your moral fiber on money? I mean, that's exactly what I'm seeing happen. They're not changing because they, if a guy sits there and he's sitting there and he goes, you know what? I've done the research. I found out that the electrical is not for me because it does this, this, and this, and now I'm going to change back over there. That's fine. I'm good with that. But don't come up and say, hey, I'm just going to change my whole agenda because I don't like what this guy's doing. And because I'm a member of a political party, whether that be the left or right, I have to change my hat. And again, how do you, give me a common sense answer to any of this stuff. And I'll agree with you,
Well, I guess I mentioned Martin Luther King Jr. He was always, a peace guy. And it makes me think, like, why is this world so crazy that it's okay to burn down anybody's property, whether it's a company or anybody's property, right? When is violence become acceptable? First off, we're a rule of law country. We are a republic, which is based on rule of law. So when has it become acceptable for people to cheer Tesla dealerships being, coordinated throughout the United States? This will end quickly as soon as people go to jail for a long time, and they find out that it was stupid. But it does make you think, if this happening, I saw, I think it's like 10 different places. So it's not really, it's getting a lot of airtime, but it does sound like, hey, if there's 10 different dealerships that are targeted to do something across the country, it feels a little coordinated. What's your thought behind that side of things?
Well, the first thing I'm going to jump out at is this. I'm not a fan of George Soros. I think he's a horrible individual. I think that he's trying to destroy America. But I don't want anybody going to any one of his factories and burning it. I don't want anybody going to any of his places and destroying his property. I don't want them going to his house and destroying his house because they don't like what he stands for. You have the right to stand for that. Just like I don't think anybody has the right to stand for destroying Elon Musk's property as well. So I don't think anybody should have to go through that, and I don't think it's right. So the answer is there shouldn't be any of that going on. The second thing is, though, it's all calculated and it's all manipulated. This whole force is people either being paid to go do it, and or being organized because people know that they can be organized because, again, they can be hypnotized. That's what I like to say, is these are hypnotized people that can be moved and angered because of their emotional stability. Because, and who's got time in this world of worlds? I mean, we go out, we work, we try to take care of our families, we try to keep our jobs, we try to do all basic stuff. Who's got time to go burn down a Tesla dealership? I mean, who's even got time or risk of going to jail because I've got to go to work tomorrow? Well, do you got to go to work tomorrow? Maybe not. Maybe that is your work. So there is definitely a underground movement against Elon Musk, and it's not a bunch of people that just hate Elon Musk. Yeah, there's the people out there, but it's coordinated, just like a lot of the different riots that went on were coordinated. And I hope people are passionate enough about a situation that they just do it. But peaceful protest, well, that's not what you're seeing, because that's not what it's about. That's when I know it's not individuals that have strong feelings, because their violence are after it. Because there's violence means that it is coordinated.
Well, this is what I love about this podcast, because this might come off as a political conversation, but what we are is talking about bias. And kind of to wrap up this part of the pod, you mentioned a verse, which is John 8:32, which is, the truth shall set you free. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. In that verse, it's specifically talking about the truth of God, the truth of Jesus. But when I used G3 here, it also brought up some other information here that I thought would be pertinent to break it down a little bit. So it talked about personally. So from a personal perspective, accepting the truth about the strengths and weaknesses that can help you grow and make better choices, right? That's number one. Number two, in relationship truth, honesty can build trust, resolve conflict, and, this can be difficult the first time, right? If you don't have that mutual respect. And from a society perspective, acknowledging uncomfortable truths like injustice, inequality can often be first step toward progress.
And another spiritual guideline is get up, shut up, and go to work.
All right. This is all about wrapping it back to, this is a world in crisis, James.
It's crazy.
Even more every day.
It is unbelievable.
All right, let's shift gears and go a little techie side. What do you say?
Let's you know what I want to know, because you spent a lot of time lately in AI, right? Tell me where your latest AI world is. I know you went to Canada and did a little action up there. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I went up to a conference with Apologetics Canada. Some people might know an individual from there, small organization, Wesley Huff or Wes Huff. Actually got to meet him. Super nice guy, really smart.
Joe Rogan, right?
Guy.
Was he on Joe Rogan?
Yeah, he was on Joe Rogan, and broke out from Joe Rogan, but super dialed in. His specialty is around ancient script writing. Man, what a specialty, right? Understanding how the spaces in between words and characters can actually mean something different. I mean, there's got to be an attention to detail on that, wouldn't you say?
That's beyond my pay grade. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah. So, hey, here's the deal. There was, I've never been to a place where I felt like I was, I have. I've been a fish out of water before, but this was definitely, they were all Canadians. I was up about an hour and 15 minutes out of Vancouver at this conference. And the conference was talking about apologetics in technology, specifically around AI. And then there was another segment where I got invited to a dinner with speakers, as well as to people from AC. And I spent about 3.5 hours, in individual conversations, which was wonderful.
Question. Do you have Grok pulled up by chance?
Yes, I do.
What apologetic? What is the term what does that mean by Grok? I'm curious, because I think that's a horrible name. And maybe
So I can tell you what apologetics means. So apologetics is a term, and I'm going to paraphrase this because you just spit out a whole bunch of different things. Apologetics is really a generic term for explaining a religion and all the outcomes around it. So it's not just like it's primarily Christians explaining, the Bible and then everything around the Bible. So when you think about the Greeks, the Romans, the Hebrews, they all had a lot of focus on details around that. And what I mean is writing history. So think about Pharaoh, think about the Egyptians, like all them, they wanted to have the history, right, that was written around them. That's what apologists do. They might be more known in the Christian community specifically as academics in explaining all these things. And then from just a secular perspective, they may be known as more as debating atheists. But that's, I would say, Apologetics Canada, that's not what I felt from that group up there. And the speakers are generally concerned about the truth and the truth setting people free.
So I have a question, only because the name just is it. I can't get this out of my brain. Right? Is that so? When did you first know what apologetics in the Christian world meant? Is this a new thing that's coming up, or is it something you knew for 20 years? I'm just curious.
So I said the same thing. I said it's a horrible name. Nobody knows what it means. Even Christians in the church don't even know what it means. I first learned about the term from Lee Strobel when he wrote a book, Case for Christ. So there are a couple popular apologists, but they don't go around as I'm an apologist. They may or may not, but the name is really bad because most people don't even know what apologist actually comes from. I'm going to say it comes from a Greek word. And I'm glad it's to defend. So
yeah, I like that. See,
apologist
I like that.
Means to defend one's faith.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think I think it's important because I think AI particular, when Gen AI, generating artificial intelligence, happened with the ChatGPT moment. I want to go back 2 years as your resident AI expert here. When that ChatGPT moment happened, now instead of Google searching, it's actually all these GPUs connected together with the software stack, creating a large language model, otherwise known as LLM, is now generating intelligence. It's generating something. So we're in that period. What the new kind of lever that has flipped recently is now the intelligence is reasoning. So this is where, from my perspective, it gets really tricky. So when you're working, I'm pretty into AI. I like Grok 3. I think it's amazing. Before Grok 3 came out, it was kind of, wonky a little bit. Now you can do deep research, deep thinking, that type of stuff. But my greatest concern is that the next generation, not the next generation, the 15-year-olds, like within the next 5 years, it's going to be unbelievable leaps. If you think about where we've come in the past 12 years, people are going to, kids specifically, and people will start to look to Gen AI as being the ultimate truth. So kids will no longer go to their parents for wisdom. They will now use Gen AI. And now when it starts to reason, right, I don't, when it comes specific to apologetics in the Bible, this is where I get a little bit, let's call it, I just want the truth to come out versus kind of what an AI is generating. How's that sound?
Well, it's kind of like the first time I really understood what humble meant. And somebody explained to me, to be humble is to seek and do God's will. And all of a sudden that word, that humble, which had this distaste of groveling, humble, groveling, despair, crawling, please don't, please, no, just like apologetic. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But when you look at the words like defend, that's very powerful. Humble, to seek and do God's will, means humble, extremely strong. What you're saying is it's like getting that JFK drop. It's so overwhelming that, because I know in my heart what I'm going to tell you scares me, only because it's in 2 or 3 years, not 30 years, there is going to be a major shift in everything. Because you're right. Kids are going to start to go to these places. They're not going to go to their fathers and their mothers or their pastors or these people in their life that are supposed to be the ones that are bringing the wisdom and to train this youth to be good citizens. It's going to be an AI. And the problem with that is the control of that information. Because if you get the wrong person controlling that information, it's all it is another George Soros trying to push another agenda that's bad.
Well, I know we're in our 2-minute warning here.
We are.
And I got to call, we've never done this before. I got to call part 2 on this. There's so much here that needs to be talked about. And I haven't even got into any of the stuff, but I will tell you from a conference perspective, I would say 80-20 rule. I really believe in the 80-20 rule for some reason. 80% of the focus at the conference was on the negatives. And I don't want to take it to that. In the community, there's a lot of negatives about in the questions around that, just because people don't understand what's going on. But a lot of people are concerned about the narrative, which is going to be communicated. And 20% maybe on the opportunity in front of us to accelerate forward. And I think in a time of technology change, human instinct is always to kind of push back. And this is a time where we need to be out front. We shouldn't be pushing back. That's why I think we need to talk about this. You know, when Henry Ford wanted to, make the car, what the people were saying is, give me a buggy. They didn't want the car. It makes me think about 1932, the series. But I know you're not a big 1932 guy, but I love it. So hey, for me, I think wrapping this segment up, and I'd like to dive into this again. I think what you said, the verse in Matthew 8:32, right, is the truth shall set you free. And I think for all of us, in summary for me, that all of us should be seeking the truth and trying everything we can do to eliminate the bias. And it makes me think that every morning I wake up, I should say, God, Jesus, like, just help me sift through this to find your truth. And then also the truth in society, anything that would propel you and glorify you. That's all I got, Jay. I'll hand it off to you to close it out.
Well, the only thing that I'll do while we're both on here is I'll say it's a pretty scary thing that these people are looking at when one of the guys that's probably the most in-depth of anybody out there that knows about AI is the guy that they're throwing rocks at and burning his dealers down. They might want to read that. That might be a rethink, might be an apologist, right? It might be, you might want to apologize. I didn't really mean to burn your Tesla dealership down because, just wait and see what happens. Okay. So we'll call it at that. And I think you're right. I think this is a way bigger deal. This is a whole podcast itself. And we won't burn it down to the ground any longer. I appreciate you, man. And we will see you later.
God bless you. God bless you all. Thank you, Jay Shrek.
Thank you. Just remember what you've done, how you've done it, who, doesn't matter. Ask God to remove your sins and he will. God still loves you regardless of what you've done and who. And so all you got to do is get up every morning and say, God, help me, and he will. Thank you for hanging out with us today. We'll see you later. Adios, amigos.